Welcome to Overdrive. I'm Peter Hills and these are my mini racing diaries. Last time I got my freshly reconditioned short engine back from Specialist Components up in Norfolk, and I started to put it all back together with the timing gear, gearbox and ancillaries. Now the last component I need to finish the build has arrived, the head gasket, so I can fit the head and now I can finish off the build and get it all ready to fit in the car. So hopefully today we're going to get the head on. I've been waiting for a new head gasket to come through, and that's one of these kinetic style gaskets, as you can see here. Just copper fire rings that aren't contained, so they're loose within the head gasket, and you can see that all we've got is the head stud holes, nothing else, because these blocks are dry decked, and I'll show you a little bit more about what we do later. So the plan is to get this on today, and we've got all the head all ready, so hopefully by the end of today the head will all be on, and we'll have a buttoned up engine, so might as well crack on. So on this conversion I just use the stock head bolts, but the long ones, and you can use the ARP ones, but because you're putting extra studs in, you actually torque it up less than a mini, so it's not a real issue. But one of the things that you'll notice with this engine is that although those 3 studs are standard, you actually have to drill extra ones in these positions, and they break through to the water jacket. So one of the things I do with mine, some people use a sealant, I don't tend to. I just use a PTFE tape. I just give them a good wrap with this tape. You can build it up quite thick being PTFE. It doesn't really matter, because it all squidges out. But I'll give it a real good wrap of this. Can't hurt. There you go, so all nicely done like that. You can see it does ease out a little bit, but just get a scalpel and then just trim it off later. A lot of times with studs like this you just wind them in by finger tight, but because of the water jacket on these, and I really don't want these backing off, so I like to nip these in with a couple of nuts and just make sure they are tight and they're not going to come loose. What I don't want is water coming up past any of this and ruining all my hard work. Haven't had any issues so far. I always keep my studs in specific order, mainly because with the twin cam you do have to shorten them slightly, and so every one of these has been set so it will clear the camshaft. And just a little. Get rid of the excess. There we go. Lovely. And then we'll carry on and fit the other 2, 4, 6, 8. So you've got 10 on this head. So it really clamps it very well. Nice front to rear. And I'll show you some of the detail later of where the blanks go and where the threads go once we've got all the studs in. Okay, so the head studs are in. You can see it looks quite a bit different than what you normally expect for a Mini. So let's just take you through what happens here. So actually, that one there, and that one there, they're standard Mini. They don't move at all. But as you can see, when you look here, you can see where the old hole was, and you have to plug it and then re-drill it, and that takes you into the jacket. And the same here, again you'll see the plug, but then on the back becomes quite different. So you can see here we've got plugs for the push rods, plus for the studs, plus for the water jacket, and that's repeated all the way along. And also in the front you'll see that all the waterways are all plugged up as well. Now, keep it simple on the back here. These are just drilled, tapped, little grub screws just set in. Use a bit of Loctite and stuff, but it's proved fine so far. So we've got all the studs in, they're all nipped up tight. So now I'm going to prep the block face, prep the gasket. There's a little bit of work to do in there, just a little bit of silicone around the seals just to make sure everything sounds good. And then we're not far off then dropping the head on. Right, so head gasket's all on, the fire rings are all nicely central around the bores. Done a little bit of work with a file just to correct a few little areas, just because with these high RPMs the pistons come up very close, and the last thing I want is a piston just catching the edge of a ring. These are for life gaskets and you can reuse them, so I want to make sure it's right and we don't damage it. The head's all prepped. You have to take the cams out to fit them. You gain access through the studs there. We've got all the studs ready to go, so next job now is let's drop the head on and slowly torque it up. I like to go through, you go up to 30 pounds-feet just on most of them and then wait a bit, but I like to kind of go up in stages, so just take it up about 5 pounds-feet on each bolt, check them all, let it steady, and then just go up until I'm really happy it's clamping properly. What I don't want is this gasket moving. So let's get the head on. Got the head on, bit tricky to film and didn't quite pan out, so head is all on, really happy with that. Gasket stayed beautifully in place, it's all dropped in. We have to take all the cams out and everything to do this because of where the studs are. Next job for me is just I like to use this ARP assembly grease. It's really wise to do. Just put a little bit on the seats where the nuts are going to go. And a little bit on the threads. Just make sure that the torque when it goes on is done properly. In fact, in some ways we can just put a bit of assembly on the thread, and then I'll just run a little bit more on the flange of the nuts where they bite down on the head, just so they don't stick, and make sure we get it all done properly. Yeah, lovely stuff. Of course, you know, when you're torquing stuff up, it's very important to a lot of things you do in stages, you know, just go straight up there, and then obviously, you know, if I torque one bolt up and it pulls the head down, and then by the time you've done all of them, you'll find that actually that other one will move again. So you just keep doing them until they're all quite happy and steady, and then I'll go and do the next one again. So what we're going to do now is just flip these nuts up so I can put some grease on the flanges. I've done the inspections before, so I know these are all in good condition. There's no problems with all the threads. Good old blue roll. I mean, a lot of people do engine build with gloves on and stuff, but I just find I haven't got the sensitivity for doing that kind of work like that, so I much prefer to work with my hands as this. What I can also do is just spin them down a little bit quicker with a socket. It's going well, this. There's always a fear when you're doing engine builds. You just got to take your time, but obviously if you've only got a little workspace and you kind of got the race car in here and I've got other things in here and storage and it's your garage, it can all just get a bit busy at times because I've got subframe off at the moment and all the suspension bits are laying around as well, and you just run out of storage eventually. But we've got the engine on the box here, it's nicely out of the way, so we can work on it without tripping over things. Now these studs, they don't have a particularly high torque on them. They only go eventually up to 35 pounds-feet, which is nothing compared to what they used to do with a normal cast iron mini head. But in some ways clamping is a little bit different on these, where the pattern on an A series was kind of like like that, and then it would have them in the middle. These are back to front, so they're really even clamping, so you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 bolts clamping nice and evenly. So we'll just start off not too high. I'll just bed it down at about 15 pounds-feet for the moment, remembering to stick to the torque pattern that's in the book. The grease just helps them, so you get true torque readings. Yeah, 15, it's not going to go anymore. So that's where we go up to now. Should we go up another? Let's go up to 20. You go up to 30 and then you leave it. Well, they like to say, call it rest. And let it rest for 5 minutes before you apply the final torque. Got a bit out of sequence there on me torquing up. Got it right that time, so we know that every one of those is at the right. So it's 25. And what's important with the torque wrench especially is just to nice even pull. Don't suddenly stop and back off. There you go. Yeah, it's okay. The last step before we let it rest now. That's it. That's 30. Just Wonderful. And that's it. Let it rest now. Come back maybe after lunch. I don't mind leaving it a little bit longer, and then we'll do the final torque down. Got the pulleys on, haven't torqued anything up properly yet, or I haven't torqued up the cam carriers. Now obviously the procedure now is, well, we've just all been apart, you know, there's no marks on here. A lot of the timing of the cams in the book is all about lift on overlap and putting DTIs on buckets and stuff like this. Well, I've done that previously, and where I've been really lucky is I've got a good friend just locally. A lot of people know him for his mad turbo mini, but running one of these heads, Jim Lyons, and on GymNet, it's a great source of wiring and stuff like this for race cars and stuff. But what Jim's come up with is this wonderful little setting tool. It really is neat. So effectively there's a couple of cutouts on the end of the cams, so once you know where you've got your cam set right, you just turn this tool so it fits on the end of each camshaft, and that's it. Lock it all up. Every time you change the cam or take the cams out, just put this little gag in and it holds the cams in the right position, so you then put all your belts on. It really is simple. So all we've got to do is just put that in there and just turn the cams. Let's see, we've got a spanner somewhere just to ease that past. There you go, that one's dropped in, lovely. There we go, that's it. You could put a couple of bolts in there, but that's got it. That's it. That's the top end timed up. So we've got the right overlap on exhaust and on the inlet cams. That's all set. Now what we can do is bring the engine up into the right place for top dead centre, and we can think about fitting all the belts. So I think we'll get the engine timed up now. I've backed off the pulley here just to allow the belts to slip around nicely. Nice new belt. I brought the engine up to TDC. I've got marks on the flywheel, and I can also know it's on TDC by the marks on the trigger wheel here, because that's all locked and fixed. So I know that it's right there and it's right there. And I've had a DTI on the top of the pistons before, so I've checked all my marks and I know they're absolutely spot on. So there's no problems there. We've got, so that the belt wise, we've got the tensioner here, and that's just a, funny enough, that's just a Ford Pinto tensioner. So what we're going to do then, jack shaft for the oil pump, but obviously it's not a camshaft anymore, so it really doesn't matter where that sits. So we've just got to make sure we've got good wrap around the bottom there. You can come up here, and then really what we're trying to do is just slide these belts on, so that I like to keep the adjusters roughly in the middle there, and if we can get it to go there, that looks really good actually at the moment. So got a feeling this tensioner might have to come off a bit more to enable the belts to slide on, but you never know, it might just work. It's gone too far that way, that one. So Now we're going to have to just drop this bolt out here. So bring it up the back. This looks good there. That looks good there. Just go back a tooth with that one. That looks all right. Don't think this one. I'd like to run it back a bit further, but yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's good. All I've got to do now is tension it. When you get the bolt in. Go. That's the bolt in, and tension wise I think we're not far off actually. I mean that's pretty good. That's a new tensioner, all lined up on nicely on all the pulleys. It's nice up here. We've got room for it to move around, and normally I go for just being able to put it in my fingers and just be able to turn it about 90 degrees really without struggling too much. If I can only get it that far, it's too tight, but that's with the tension on its slackest position, and that's quite neat. You don't want it too tight because it's not designed to obviously work like this way, but if you have it too tight it's all pulling on the belts and stretching the belts, and I quite like that. That feels just about nice. I reckon by the time that's nipped up now, that'll be absolutely where we want it. Okay, that's it. It's all done. Okay, so it hasn't taken too long, kind of mid-afternoon now, and we're all buttoned up. There's little things that I've finished off, is things like the dipstick tube. I'm mounting that onto the manifold, and then we've got the oil feed from the front of the block up to the back of the head, and then my own little breather system, just made out of copper pipe, but it just helps any oil that does get picked up to kind of expand and drop back down into the gearbox, and then vent out through the top. And that's just really done with 22mm copper pipe, so nice and simple. We've got some of the drains for the back of the head going down now into the back of the block where the fuel pump used to fit. And then if we move around the block, around the engine, you can see all timed up. I've done the cam belts up properly now. You can see all the new timing gear, all the belts on. All nice and simple. Cam cover's not fully finished yet. I've got some paint work to do on that, so that's just on at the moment, just to keep the muck and rubbish off. But it's all finished up underneath. So you can see when we take the cover off. There you go. Inlet in the front, exhaust on the back. Some specialist components, sprint cams. So 16 valve mini engine, simple as that. Next thing now for me will be getting my subframe finished, and once I've got that all built up, hopefully I can get the engine in and get the first fire up done, and it's all looking good.